do you want more?
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
Disconnected.
Yeah, I think I got into a spot here where the reception's better. But anyways, the new record, live album. I know, this was a solo performance, obviously, where you were promoting For the Love of Metal, but this is the live album. What can you tell us about this? Because it's got a pretty good balance in the set in terms of twisted stuff, obviously, and then new stuff, new solo stuff.
Yeah. Well, first of all, my management thinks I'm Nostradamus because last spring I told them, I'm talking about 2019, I told them I wasn't going to do any live shows in 2020. And we should release a live album.
Right.
So they're like looking at me like, what do you see for the stock market, D? So we filmed, because I wasn't planning on doing any shows, we filmed last year's concerts.
Yeah.
And in the live shows, and with this record, I'm trying to connect the dots for people and say, well, we know where you came from, D, and we hear what you sound like today with The Love of Metal, a more contemporary metallic sound.
Right.
How'd you get from A to B? Well, when you hear it all played together, and in all fairness, it's detuned, and there's a few extra in there. But also, I chose a lot of songs that reflect Twisted's metal side.
Right.
When we started, and people now know because they've seen the documentary We Are Twisted, Black King Sister, that the band was together from 1973. And by the early 80s, the very early 80s, when we were in Europe touring with Metallica, Maiden, Saxon, Motorhead, it wasn't called hair metal. It was just metal, and nobody thought anything of that. Twisted and Metallica. Nobody thought that was strange. Nobody thought Iron Maiden Twisted tour in Europe, United States was strange. It was just a metal show. It was only the late 80s when it became branded as hair metal, and suddenly, a lot of those bands started smiling and stuff. Happy metal. It's happy metal. That's when the change happened. So, Twisted, had a very metallic side, and with the new album, like I said, I'm showing both my past and my present.
Also, I think it's a brilliant move in the sense that for anybody that might have missed For the Love of Metal the first time around, this is kind of a way to kind of revisit that. If somebody picks up the live album and then enjoys the solo original tunes on there, they can go back and pick up the other the studio albums.
Yeah, this was a miracle for me, quite honestly. For the Love of Metal was a miracle. Every artist who goes out on his own, any legacy band, hopes that they will be able to make a name for themselves as themselves. But it's very difficult, and most don't achieve it. It's hard to overshadow your past. Ozzy is the ultimate example of someone who comes from a legacy band, and now it's 2 hours of Ozzy Osbourne music and Paranoid and Good Night. You know what I mean? A tip of the hat to Black Sabbath. So, that's the dream.
Sure.
Yet I put out many Desperado, Widowmaker. I had a Halloween rock orchestra called Van Helsing's Curse. I did a Broadway record. I did all these different things trying to sort of find Dee Snider for the new millennium, and nothing was connecting. But For the Love of Metal, I saw an immediate connection. From the day the record came out to the day I started playing those songs live, people were invested. And for me, that was like, I remember going backstage and just marveling, saying, hey, they were singing along. Like, I was stunned. The new song, they were singing along with the new song. And believe me, I've heard Elton John talk about it. I've heard Paul McCartney talk about it. I've heard every band talk about the glassy-eyed look that the audience gets when you say, this one's from the new record.
Right.
If they don't go to the bathroom, they just stand there with a blank stare looking at you.
Yeah.
So to have the audience react, and for me, it was a major achievement. And with the live album, again, connect those dots and show people this new music, new band, and how it works.
Right. And also with the new album, the live album, and DVD and Blu-ray, obviously, you got a new studio cut on there. Now, was that something that was in the vaults from the previous sessions from For the Love of Metal, or was this an entirely new tune that made the cut?
I'm really glad you asked that question, because Napalm asked, they wanted, everybody's looking for the bonus track, do you have any outtakes from The Love of Metal? We did not. As I said, but we can write something new and record it.
Right.
And they were like, even better. So the message here, for people hearing Prove Me Wrong, is that this is Dee Snider. This is what you can expect from me moving forward. Mm-hmm. This, I found my place in the community. I found my sound, and it was hard fought. Thank you, Jamie Josta, for your guidance. But now, here's Prove Me Wrong, a taste of things moving forward, and this is what you can look forward to.
Right. And out of curiosity, I mean, I know you mentioned Jamie Josta, which, he's everybody knows who he is, whether you like the music or not, but he's from the pummeling, hardcore kind of scene, and he encouraged you to do that record. Would he have any hand in anything you do from here forward in terms of a new studio album at all, you think?
Oh, yeah. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Right.
Jamie produced. He was involved in everything, and arrangements, and writing, and I'm really happy for Jamie, because he says we get defined by the band we become known for, and it's great. If you're lucky enough to become known for anything, you should feel blessed. But at the same time, often we are limited by that definition. Right. And Jamie is a much more capable artist. Not capable. I don't want to say capable implies that he isn't. He's more. He has range. He can do more, just as I can do more. I was in this show called Rocktopia on Broadway. It was a mashup of classical and rock, and they had rock singers, Broadway singers. They had classical. They had opera singers. In the show, where it was a mashup of Kashmir and Cante Patiro, an opera song. And the two opera singers are singing Cante Patiro. I'm singing Kashmir. We're going back and forth, and all of a sudden I start singing opera. Dude, the audience was on its feet. Right. Stunned. No one expected Dee Snider to be literally doing operatic singing. Right. But again, they think they know you because you're in Twisted Sister or you're in Hatebreed. Sure. And Jamie has a lot of range. So he came in here, brought so much to the table, and in creating this For Love of Metal, and I will absolutely, like I said, it ain't broke. I ain't going to fix it. Next record, Jamie Johnson will be producing.
Nice. Out of curiosity, I mean, as far as the band that's featured in the performance, because I know when you first launched for the Love of Metal, I remember recording, because it was really early in the morning over here on the West Coast. You did a performance there for Fox and Friends, and I know you had a particular band on there. Is that that's a different band that you'd use for that show than you used for the performance of this DVD Blu-ray, right?
I don't remember what that Fox and Friends thing was.
Yeah, well, I'm just asking.
I don't remember.
The reason I ask is, are you doing kind of like a band if you do stuff in the States versus Europe? Is that kind of the deal, or do you have, do you just kind of rotate?
Oh, yeah. I had some, I was management.
Okay.
I was going to say managers. The managers. There was like these shows I was doing, these Christmas shows, and they booked these a couple of shows. They go, we don't need to bring the band over. We got some great musicians over there, and we can use them. And they learned the stuff. And I went and I played, and we did these two shows. Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you the funny thing about that, though, they became sort of a spare parts band. Oh. My bass player, Russ Pizzuto, who's in my band now, when we went down to South America, his passport had expired. There's this thing where you have to have 6 months lead time. He didn't know, so he couldn't get a passport. So we flew in one of the spare parts out of Finland. No, he was Swedish, and we flew him in, and he knew all the songs, and he dropped in and he played. So yeah, let's just say that was well over a year. That was 2018 when that happened. Yeah. In 2019, my sidemen became my band. Okay, and well, Charlie Belmore and Nicky Belmore, who Nicky played drums and engineered and mixed, and Charlie did most of the guitars, a lot of songwriting on the album. I made them the cornerstone of my live band, but just when playing together over and over, it started to become a band. And I remember the day my wife came back, and she's been with me forever, seen it all, and she came backstage. She goes, "You know, they're not much to look at, but they kick ass."
There you go.
and my wife is very old school. You know, the new, like a sort of average guy looking rock star does not play well with her.
Right.
So, and I remember looking, going, "Yeah, they do. They do kick ass. No, this is my band. They really kick ass." Right. So I really tried to show them on the live DVD, give them, put a spotlight on them, and let people see just how talented they are.
Cool. And I just got a few more things. I didn't want to keep you too long because I know you got probably swamped with interviews and whatnot today. In terms of going back to the Strangeland, because again, I think that movie didn't get its fair shake. Have you ever considered doing like a reboot, or maybe teaming up with somebody to do a reboot of that thing?
Thank you for appreciating it. It was groundbreaking.
Yeah.
It was the first film rated R for scenes of torture. Mm-hmm. The torture genre didn't exist before Strangeland. James Wan and Eli Roth bowed down before me and Strangeland as inspiration for Saw and for Hostel, movies that wouldn't have been made if not for Strangeland. But it was ahead of its time. So it's got a great cult status. I'm constantly going to horror conventions and doing Q&As and people talking about it. There's been so many false starts with the sequel, and it hasn't, and it's been very disappointing to me. But I'm now, my new venture, I was supposed to be in May directing my first feature film, a scary movie I wrote called My Enemy's Enemy. Oh. And it's been pushed back due to COVID. Sure. But since then, I've just been offered to write and direct another reimagining of an 80s classic horror film that I'm working on. So in 2021, I'm going to be directing 2 horror films and writing 2 new horror films. I'm hoping that this is going to open the door for me to finally get Strangeland sequel made. Nice. That I'll be able to control but it's been well over 20 years since it was originally greenlit right after the first one came out, and then the company got indicted by the federal government and shut down. So and then started a long, ugly process of getting the rights back to the movie. So thank you for hoping that with my new thing as a directing horror films and writing horror films that I'm going to get to make Strangeland too.
Cool. So I got a couple things. What's your favorite social media platform, and why do you like it best overall?
My favorite, the one I'm most active on is Twitter. Right. And I don't know, it was really sort of my first one. So I'm on Facebook. I got a ton of followers on there, and I'm on Instagram, and I got a pretty big following on there. And Twitter, it just seems to have this ease of use and immediacy of reaction. Kind of like, when you're on the radio back in the old days of when you were doing live radio and you talked about something and it reacted and you saw the phones light up. That immediacy, that like you said something and it connected with people. Sure. You see that on Twitter a lot. All of a sudden, bam, responses and reactions start coming back, and the shares. So Twitter, as a rule, Although I'm wondering if I'm missing out on with Facebook.
Right. Yeah, I don't think you're missing out on much, actually. No, but I do follow you on Twitter, and it's I mean, people agree or disagree with stuff, but I just think the fact that you tend to just kind of stick to what you believe, and that's what it is, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I will say that there's an exchange of ideas there, and that's something that's been lost, and I'm trying to re-encourage that. I've been getting kind of political lately.
Right.
We're getting closer and closer to the election. It's time to take a position. But I've been trying to keep some sort of a conversation going.
Sure.
And a lot of times with people, when people come back, very fixed in their position or whatever, I do a quick troll on them. I'm big on trolling them, and I see what they're about, and I go, holy crap! He's been the Sturgis. I've been the Sturgis. We both ride. Hey, man, you ride, I ride. We love Sturgis. We love the freedom of riding. We love the camaraderie of the community. Where is we have this commonality, and like we talk about this rather than scream at each other. Mm-hmm. And I'm finding that kind of when you find. And by the way, I'd like to reflect on For the Love of Metal, the live DVD. I don't know if you've seen it, but when people watch it, it is not just one show. It's about 9 different concerts. Mm-hmm. And it literally cuts from Europe to South America to North America, day to night, rain to sun, in one song, in one line. Okay? And it's actually pretty entertaining. It's unique that way. But the thing about the show is how metal connects everybody in the world. Mm-hmm. We're all connected. And in one song, you'll see people in Germany singing and people in Brazil singing to the same song. And we forget that we've got a lot more in common. With how things are so politicized and all the ugliness in the world today, we forget that at our core we're connected by especially the metal community. Uh-huh. The metal community is so connected, and I really tried to show that.
Right. Last thing, and we'll end on this. Who was the first celebrity that you ever met, and what did you take away from that encounter that helped, that you used, let's say, in meeting your own fans down the road?
Wow. Interesting question, and it had a massive effect on me. Mm-hmm. Massive. Billy Joel.
Oh, okay.
Met him at Twisted wasn't famous. We were like this, local, phenomenon. But Billy Joel was Billy Joel.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, there's a great and it was a party, and Richie Blackmore was there too.
Oh, jeez.
Richie Blackmore was so weird, off-standish, odd, mumbly, wouldn't look in the eye, shook your hand like it was a wet fish, and I was, I wasn't famous, but I was like, whoa. Then Billy Joel was gracious, self-deprecating, open. I remember actually. I pulled down. There was one of the radio stations in New York City was having a subway campaign, Wake Up with different artists, and it had a drawing of Billy Joel with a cup of coffee. And I pulled it out of the subway, and I brought it to the party. I knew he'd be there, and I gave it to him. And the first thing he says, I'm surprised nobody drew a mustache on this. and he said, I said, what? He goes, oh, I definitely would have drawn a mustache on this. But yeah, and he changed me that day. He said, "This is how I want." And when he walked away, everybody was like, "Wow, what a cool guy! Mm-hmm. What a great guy!" And I said, "You know what?" And by the way, when Blackmore walked away, everybody was like, "What a dick! What a effing dick!"
Right.
And I said, "You know what? This is what I want people to say when I walk away.
Right.
I want people not you're a dick. I want to say, what a cool guy."
Right.
And that changed me forever. Changed me forever.
Hey, that's awesome. That's a cool way to end this. Thank you for your time. This will be for print for knac.com. And yeah, have a great show tonight, because I think you're part of that David Z benefits. And I look forward to seeing the Blu-ray. I got it pre-ordered and seen a couple clips, but nothing beats popping the whole thing in and watching it from beginning to end.
It is unique, and right now we don't get too much live entertainment. So,
Right, exactly.
Put it on your big screen TV
Sure.
and crank it the fuck up.
And I'll kick the wife out because she's not a fan of loud music. But so what?
All right, man.
Thank you very much.
Talk to you.
Yeah, pleasure. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.